I tried 10 sales scripts for my painting business, and only one of them actually got me to 71,000 a month consistently. So let me ask you this. If there was a way for you to convert more leads into painting projects and all you had to do was change the way that you go about giving estimates, would you do it? If the answer is yes, then in this video, I'm going to show you how to use that one sales script that works for me so you can grow your painting business. So the first step is going to be pretty tricky, but this is going to help you stop losing out on thousands of estimates that you could be converting into painting projects. So imagine for a second that you went to the doctor and you're sitting in front of the doctor and he's just looking kind of disappointed, looking at the papers, and he's kind of like, yeah. So I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're gonna have to go into very extensive treatment for 6 months. And it's gonna come out about like $150,000. You can apply for assistance, right? They can help you with that if you don't have that money. Maybe you can get some Medicaid, whatever. But yeah, I'm so sorry to tell you this. I wish I could be saying something else, but yeah, I'm so sorry. What do you think is gonna happen in your mind? You're probably gonna be like, whoa, 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 hold on a second. What do you mean 6 months? Treatment? $150,000? What are you talking about? And so the reason I'm telling you this is because it's the same scenario with homeowners. You go about pretending that they already know why they want to paint their house. They just tell you, oh yeah, I want to paint my house. But do you truly know why they want to paint their house? What if they want to paint their house because they're tired that their fascia is peeling off and they might have to replace it? What if their wife is complaining because the house looks ugly? What if it's some competition with the neighbors? Maybe the neighbor has a better looking home and he feels a bit jealous. You never actually know. And so the thing is, even though homeowners, they called you to schedule an estimate, they still need to be more reminded of why they decided to take an action, because they didn't just schedule a time with you just so they can sit around for an hour just to get a price. That's not what they want. They want an outcome, and that outcome is a beautiful home. But more importantly, trying to remove some pain, maybe the pain of feeling inferior, maybe the pain of expensive repairs, maybe the pain of having the same old colors after 10 years. Do you see how that works? And so always make sure that when you're talking with homeowners, you want to dig deeper. You want to find out what's the tension behind you actually wanting to paint your house so you can use it so they move forward with the project. But how do you actually go about doing this? Well, let me show you. So the first step number one, is that you want to make sure that you're having a one-to-one conversation. So what do I mean by this? So I actually met a painter in San Diego, right? I was helping this guy grow his painting business, and we went to give an estimate together, like the two of us. I wanted to show him how I went about closing the estimates. And this guy, he literally ruined it for me. Now, I'm not trying to like point fingers, right? Because I don't want to judge him, but he just dominated the conversation. So we were sitting with the homeowner. He was talking about his kids, his family, how awesome he is. Then he started talking about his personal problems, what he wanted to become, but he never actually did that. And oh my goodness, you could see the homeowner's face. She was looking at the watch every second, like, oh my goodness, when is this guy gonna leave? Okay, I gotta really get going. So can you guys just email me the quote? And at the end of the day, we didn't close the project, just to keep the story short. And so the reason I'm telling you this is because you want to have a one-on-one conversation with the homeowner. It's not about you. It's not about your painting business. It's not about how many crews you have or how you do the painting project so well. It's about them. And so always make sure that what's a one-on-one conversation is you ask a question, the person talks, you listen, you're listening. You're not interrupting. You listen to the other person and you're like, okay, I see what you mean. Like, I guess like you follow up with another question. All right. And now step number two, you want to start asking better questions. So what do I mean by this? So you don't want to ask questions that are pretty obvious. You don't want to say, okay, so what are you looking to get painted again? Because maybe they told you, maybe they already told you multiple times. And so you just don't want to ask the same questions just to get the same information you already know. Does that make sense? So let me give you an example of a good question. Because you have to realize that you have a certain amount of questions that you can ask the homeowner. And so the more questions you start asking, the more irritated they're gonna start getting. And so you wanna make sure that the questions you are asking, they're precise, that they gather some information that you can use later on to close the project. And so how do you actually go about doing this? Well, let me actually give you some examples. One good question that I will ask is to build up that tension. You have to remember, it's about building that tension. It's saying something like this. Okay, Mr. Prospect, apart from like obviously wanting to paint your exterior, interior cabinets, whatever he wants to get painted, how long have you been living in this house again? And they might say, oh, I've been living here 20 years. Oh, okay. I guess I'm just trying to like understand the rationale. I guess like why now? Why after, 20 years of living in this house? What made you, I guess, get a quote now after 20 years? Why not just keep it the same? You see how that works? Because now they're gonna tell you something like, oh, it's because you see that fascia? It's looking horrible. I don't want to see what happens if I don't do something about that. Boom, building tension. You're increasing that tension. Another thing they might say, oh, it's just we're really tired of these colors. We hate them. I want to feel like my home is brand new again. See how that works? So now you're building that tension. Just to give you an idea, if they say, I just want my home to feel like a brand new home, you can contrast that. Later on, when you're closing the sale, you can say something along the lines of, okay, yeah, I know the project is around like 9,000 and I can appreciate that it seems too expensive. And this might be a cheesy question. However, have you considered how much does it cost to buy a new home nowadays? How much do you think it costs? Oh, well, like 500,000, $1 million. Yeah. So I know this might be cheesy, but if you want your home to feel brand new, if you really, 500,000 to 9,000, I guess like how does that compare to you feeling like you have a brand new home? Do you see how that works? So you can use a lot of ammunition. You're gathering ammunition. So at the end, you can fire up and use this to close the estimate. One last example before I move to step 3 that you can ask is, okay, and apart from obviously painting your exterior, what concerns you the most about the way your home is looking right now? And they're going to tell you, oh, well, I don't like this, or this concerns me the most. Building up that tension. All right. Now, step 3, you want to lower resistance. So, what do I mean by lowering resistance? Well, nobody's going to open up to you if they feel like they don't want to tell you anything. And so, has it happened to you where someone comes and says, I don't know if I should tell you that, or why are you asking me these questions, or what is this about? So, if that has happened to you, it means that the resistance of the prospect went up. And when someone has full resistance, it's kind of like this. They close up. So what you want them to do is open up so they tell you why they're looking to paint. Because without this, you're not going to close the estimate. So one good way to lower that resistance is if, let's say, you're asking some questions and they're like, why are you asking me this again? Or I don't want to tell you that. Or can we just get straight to the price? How much does it cost? You want to just say, oh, yeah, I understand. You want to acknowledge that they're right. Never say like, oh, no, but I need to know this, because now you're just fighting back and forth. You want to make sure that you're saying like, oh, yeah, I get you, or I understand. Lower that resistance. And they're like, okay, yeah, this guy understands me. So always keep the resistance down. If not, you're not going to be able to dig into that question. And you can still ask the questions. You could say something along the lines like, oh, yeah, I understand. It's really more like, just trying to like understand like the rationale. I guess like, why now? It's just if it's okay for me to ask. You see what I mean? I'm just asking the question again, but just asking like if it's okay for me to ask, if it doesn't bother you for me to ask. And so now what happens is that they're going to say, oh, no, it doesn't bother me. I guess I'm just looking because of this and that. Or, oh, okay, well, this and this and this. So you see how that works? Always bring the resistance down. Never fight back or start acting nervous like, oh, I'm sorry. Let's just move on to the price. Because now you're kind of like their little bitch. And I hope you don't get offended by this, because it's the truth. You are an authority, right? You are the guy who's going to be doing the project. And so you need to be able to ask these questions because you're the professional here. And so if they are the ones dragging the conversation, they'll tell you what it's okay to ask and not to ask. They're like, oh yeah, don't ask me that. Just give me the price. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, here's the price. What do you think is gonna happen? They're just gonna see you as another painter. Okay, yeah, that one was weird. Let me get another quote. I didn't even like the guy anyways. So no, I know you can do better than this. Just bring the resistance down and still ask the question like an authority you are. Like, yeah, I guess I understand. It's really more about understanding. I guess, like, why now? Why not just leave it like how it is, if it's okay for me to ask? And they're gonna open up to you, and they're gonna realize, oh yeah, this guy actually has a pair of balls, and he can ask me these type of questions. So very important. Now let's move on to the second step of the sales script, so you can actually grow your painting business, because without this, it won't really do much for you. So imagine for a second you went to the dentist, and the dentist is looking at your teeth, right? They're cleaning your teeth, and they're like, hey, do you drink coffee? And you're like, no, I don't really drink coffee. And he's like, oh, it's because I see that your teeth, they're kind of yellow. So I assume that, do you smoke? No, I don't smoke. I mean, does it really look that bad? And the dentist is looking like, yeah, it kind of does. Have you considered whitening your teeth, so it looks better? And then doesn't have to look too yellowish. And then let's say you're like, oh my goodness, yeah, maybe I think it's time you start looking in the mirror, you start looking at your yellow teeth. And so then you're like, yeah, I think maybe I should whiten my teeth. But here's the catch though. The reason I'm telling you this is because that's not enough for someone to take action and move forward with your services. So with the same thing is with homeowners. Just because now they understand the pain, like we did in the last step, doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to move forward. And you might be asking, like, hold on, Carlos, what do you mean? I thought you were supposed to build that tension, and the bigger the tension, the more that we're going to actually move forward. And yes, it's true, but you need one more element in that step two, making sure that they understand what they're getting. And so people don't buy products or services, they buy an outcome. So you have to make sure that you're highlighting the outcome for them. A beautiful painted house. Oh my goodness, your neighbors are gonna love you. Your family is gonna love you. Your wife is gonna love you for the new home. Does that make sense? You always want to talk about the benefits of the benefits. What's the benefit behind having a beautiful home? It means he's gonna like his home more. He's gonna feel like he has a brand new house. His wife is gonna love him maybe more. So always make sure that you're talking benefits. But how do you actually find out the benefit the homeowner cares about? Because you just can't just bluff about random benefits that they might not care about. It has to be about them, remember? So how do you actually go about doing this? Well, the first step to actually finding out what benefits they care about is start observing. So when you get to the house, look at what the guy cares about. If he has a good car, it's like, okay, he cares a little bit about status, right? Is his house clean? Okay, he cares about how people perceive him, right? Does he talk to the neighbors? If you might notice here and then, like the neighbors say hi and hey, how you doing? Talks to the neighbors. Okay, he cares about his social circle. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that you observe cues, because we humans, just to keep it short, we are animals who live in an environment. And so by analyzing the environment, you can tell what type of human that person is. So that's the first step. Analyze the environment they live in. What do they care about? Step two, you want to ask. So it's pretty simple. You want to tell him something like, okay, let's say that we do come in and we actually paint your home, make sure that the lines are straight, whatever he said that he's concerned about and he wants to get done. I guess, like, what would that do for you personally? So why am I asking this question? You want to ask it in that way because you want to take a little pause so they absorb everything. So you want to, let me just repeat it. Okay, so let's say we do come in, we paint your house, we make sure the lines are straight. I guess, like, what would that do for you personally? Now he has to think, like, personally. Huh. Well, man, I feel amazing if I could have my beautiful home. Then you can just dig a little bit deeper. Hang on, like, why do you feel like it though? If it's okay for me to ask. Yeah, it's because I always wanted to have a beautiful home. Of course, if the quote makes sense. But yeah, I think I actually would enjoy to have my beautiful home, or maybe I won't worry about my expensive repairs, or oh, I could flex it with my family. Now you're talking benefits of the benefits. And you're not assuming what he wants, he's telling you what he wants. Do you see how that works? Now, step three, you want to remember that information and you want to talk benefits now. So now when you're talking about the work that you're going to do, you're not just going to talk about, oh yeah, we're going to make sure the painting is done well and to your liking. You're going to customize it. So you're going to say, oh yeah, we're going to make sure that we paint well. So then you can have a beautiful home that you can actually flex to your family. Or that way, you know, you don't have to worry about expensive repairs for a long time. So everybody's going to be different because some people care about status. Other people might not even care about that. Maybe they just needed to get it done because of some, you know, home association or some of that sort. Does that make sense? So always make sure that you ask and then you remember that information so you can customize it. Now, the last step is the most important one because without this, you're not going to close the estimate. And that's just the truth. So imagine for a second, someone does find out why they need to take certain treatment, right? You're talking to the doctor takes time to find out like the problems, you realize the problems, and you're like, oh my goodness, am I that bad? And the doctor says, yeah, so it's gonna be an extensive treatment, but after 6 months, you're gonna feel better and you're gonna start getting better. So that way you can spend more time with your family. Like you said, that was important to you, right? And now they're like, yeah, okay, doctor, let's do this. But let me, $150,000, that's just way too much. Ah, I'm gonna go to another doctor, get a couple quotes, or, you know, maybe see what we can do or if it's needed, you know, because it's just too much. Now, why am I telling you this? Because you have done every single step right. You build attention, you build attention, which is great. That you understand the problem. Now they remember the outcome, what they're gonna get after this extensive 6 month treatment. In this case, for the painting, right? The homeowners, they understand why they have to paint. They understand what they're getting once they paint. It's gonna have the benefit of the benefit. But now is the last step, the most important one, having a sense of urgency. Without urgency, even in the primitive times, the reason people will go hunting is because if they didn't, they would starve and they would die. And so it sounds kind of crazy, but you have to create the same type of urgency with the homeowners. Because without urgency, people don't take actions. They're gonna keep delaying it until it gets to the point where they're like, oh my goodness, I have to fix this. And they actually do something. But as you saw, it's because the urgency went up. But how do you actually build a urgency the right way, the ethical way? Because there's a couple ways that some people build urgency, and it's just by saying something like, yeah, we're only taking 10 people, and so if you don't book, you know, someone else is going to take your spot and this and that. And you could do that and it works great, but there's a better way to do it. And so how do you do that? Well, it's just by asking consequence questions. What do I mean by this? Just say like something like, let's say they're like, I want to think about it, get 3 quotes, talk to my wife. Yeah, totally understand, you know. Um, and if it, I really have enjoyed our conversation, but I have to ask, have you considered what happens if, you know, nothing changes and your home stays the same? Now they're thinking like, well, what happens like, oh no, my face is gonna get worse, or I'm gonna stick with these colors, or I'm gonna feel inferior to my neighbor. So now they're gonna say something like, oh no, we're gonna do something for sure. So now you're getting some commitment. You see what I mean? Now they feel some urgency, like, no, yeah, we're gonna have to get something done this year for sure. So you didn't say it, they said it, and that's the important part. And so now you can use that in close with the urgency, right? With the 10 spots. You can say something like, okay, so if you think it's appropriate, what we can do is we can schedule you in for X date or X month. And, you know, that way, since you said that you're going to do something anyways, if for some reason after getting 3 quotes or talking to your wife or, you know, thinking it over, you decide to cancel it, we can just take you off our schedule. Would that be appropriate? Boom, just like that. Now they're not gonna be able to say, oh no, I need to think about it before moving forward, because they already said that regardless of what happens, they're still gonna do it. They're still gonna have to paint. And if you notice that you ask this question and they're like, oh, I mean, it's not that urgent, or we're not in a hurry to get it done, then there's some problem behind the tension. You didn't build enough tension for them to take action. And so then you have to go back to step one. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's all for this video. But there's still one more thing that if you don't apply, you're not going to have any leads. And so you're not going to be able to grow your painting business. So watch this video. I made this video. It's an 8-minute video showing you ads that we actually did, proven ads that got us a bunch of leads for our painting business. It's just an 8-minute video. Go watch it and you can try to replicate them so you can start running ads for your painting business and grow it. All right, so take a look right here. My name is Carlos. Take care. Bye-bye.